tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. My guests are actress Tippi Hendren and pop singer Fidelity Kastrow. Actress Tippi Hendren was born in Minnesota, and after college was modeling and living in New York, making commercials, and that's how she was discovered by Alfred Hitchcock. Tippi's been on the stage. She's appeared in many, many TV shows, and oh, so many movies. We'll find out about her game reserve in a little bit, but first, she wrote a book about it too. You'll tell us about that, I hope.
Yes.
And tell us if Hitchcock was really as great as we hear he was.
Oh, he was a consummate filmmaker.
Were you planning to be an actress?
No, I wasn't really. I was working in New York as a fashion model, and I was doing a lot of commercials. And that's where he saw one and decided to find out who the girl was and where she was. And I had just moved to California.
And were you for this movie? The Birds?
Well, you know, when he put me under contract, I knew that they were working on, they were in pre-production on The Birds, and you know, it never occurred to me that I would even be considered for this role.
But it became cinematic history.
Absolutely.
And the thing that's
fabulous,
interesting is that The Birds now is kind of like come into the latter part of your life with all the animals. It didn't follow all the way through.
And funny enough, at the Shambhala Preserve, which is a wonderful facility for animals that have been abused or abandoned, and we're talking about big cats who have been bred in the United States to be sold as pets.
Oh.
Yeah, which is unconscionable.
Yeah,
you know,
but
anyway, we have on the preserve an enormous flock of raven.
You do?
Yes, who live there because they're meat eaters. You know,
do they know you?
Oh,
do they recognize you?
Oh, you bet they do.
They?
Oh, they're funny. They're beautiful, and they're big because you know we serve about 600 pounds of meat every day.
You know that, and you serve that natural balance.
Yes, we do. Natural balance.
And so that's for carnivores, right? I mean, it's made.
There's a formula for your domestic cats and dogs, and there's also a diet for the zoological animals, whether it's the carnivore or the primate, you know, the bears, the reptiles. There's a carnivore, a diet for all of them.
But people don't think about birds as being carnivores usually.
I know, usually not.
So
usually not, except unless it's the raptor type.
So those birds could have eaten you that Hitchcock had because they love people, I guess.
Oh, they tried, yes.
Oh, they tried. Then your next really big, fabulous film was The Countess from Hong Kong.
Oh, Marnie. How about Marnie?
I'm sorry, Marnie.
Yeah, Marnie with the handsome Sean Connery.
But that was also Hitchcock?
Yes.
And then you worked with Chaplin?
And then with Chaplin, yes.
You worked with Schlesinger?
Yes.
You worked with the greats?
I have worked with some really wonderful people.
And in 30 films, you have a daughter who's an actress, Melanie Griffith. Have you ever worked with her?
Yes. We did our movie Roar, you know, the one with the animals. It's how the Shambhala Preserve came into being. And we also did Pacific Heights together. But we didn't have any scenes together.
So John Schlesinger was Pacific Heights.
Yes.
So Roar really was the beginning of Shambhala?
Yes.
Oh, well, tell us how that started.
Well, I did 2 films in Africa, and I wanted to do those films because I really wanted to go to that continent, which I find to be fascinating. And during the times that we'd have free, we'd go to the different game preserves and watch the animals and you know, comment on how beautiful, and people who live. Now this was in 1969 and 1970.
You're early, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a long time ago. And people then were saying, you should have been there 15 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. The animals were so much more plentiful. And environmentalists at that time were saying, if we don't do something right now, in 1969, 70, you know, the early
Right now,
70s,
right.
that by the year 2000, the wild animals would be gone. So there was a lot of awareness going out. We learned about the whales, we learned about the panda,
Right.
we learned about the tiger.
And you were still acting, though. You were still
Yes.
working.
Oh, sure.
And you were,
Yes.
and then interested in the animals. Besides, you
Yeah.
were garnering awards in France and also in Spain. So it was
Yeah,
like in
it's
your
nice.
backyard, and Woman of Vision
Yeah.
in Washington,
Yes.
D.C.
Yes.
So did you still have time to play around with the animals? I mean, were they just friendly sorts?
we wanted to do a movie. My then husband was a producer. He was executive producer of The Exorcist.
Oh.
And so we decided to do a film about the animals in the wild. And after going to the Gorongosa Game Preserve and seeing a house that had been abandoned by a game warden because it flooded during the rainy seasons, it was taken over by a pride of lion. Grew to be the largest
you mean
pride
they
in all
just
of
came in?
Africa.
Really?
They were sitting in the windows, going in and out the doors. They were on top of the flat Portuguese-style roof,
Yeah.
on the verandas, and it was an amazing sight. And that's when we decided to use the big cat.
Well, how did you? That was the beginning of Shambhala.
Actually, we started out as a movie set in order to do the movie, and we were interviewing lions to do the movie after the script was written.
That was here then.
Yes.
That was in California.
Yes.
Oh.
And the interesting thing was, we really didn't know anything about lions or, you know, the whole thing. So we were talking to these trainers, Hollywood acting cats and their trainers, and the trainers were saying as soon as they read the script and learned that we might be using 20 cats together, 15 cats together, they just laughed at us and said it can't be done because of instinctual dictates to fight.
Oh, because each one wants to take over?
Yeah.
Or someone wants to take over? Territorial?
Yes, they do. And they didn't want their cat hurt, they didn't want to be hurt.
Oh,
so they
you
said,
had to bring other people in with their animals.
Yes.
Oh.
So they said, get your own animals and introduce them very carefully and do it that way. Well, Joan, we became one of the most important facilities without even knowing what we were doing, because pretty soon Fish and Game were calling us and saying, we've got this lion that needs a home, we've got a tiger that needs a home.
So it all started with big cats, but you
Yes.
have a lot of different animals there now,
No,
right?
we have big
you
cats
don't?
and an African elephant.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you had everyone
And,
on
of course, my 6 little domestic cats, who I love.
little baby purring cats.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So then that's how it was growing? Mm-hmm. It grew by itself?
Absolutely. Pretty soon the Department of Agriculture was calling us, the humane societies, the SPCAs.
Did you have any trouble with where they were with the with any kind of ordinances or anything like that?
Oh, we are up one side and down the other.
you
we
did
are
have
all the no, but we didn't have any problems with them
But
because
there were a lot?
because we put them in areas that were very, very big. I mean, some of them are an acre, some of them 2 acres.
Tell us where it is.
It's outside of Acton, California.
And where is Acton?
Acton is off the 14 freeway. Do you know where Palmdale is?
Yes.
Well, it's in that area. It's
An
about
area where
15
there's a
minutes
lot
west.
of land.
Yes, and it's desert, and we have a river that runs through it. It's
Did you buy all the
very
land
dry
then?
right now. Oh, yes.
You had to buy all the,
Yes.
I mean, you bought all the land. So
Yes.
it became a business.
Actually, we don't consider it a business. We're very nonprofit. I had to.
It is a nonprofit corporation.
After our movie was finished in 1981, it was sold all over the world, excepting for the United States, because the distributors here wanted the lion's share of the profits. So we'd come to the discussing points, and then we'd say, no, we're not going to just. The money should go to the animals who made the movie.
And what happens with the animals that are there? You kind of loan them out?
No, we don't.
You don't?
No, we don't. This is a sanctuary, and it is. And in order to be a sanctuary, there is no breeding, no buying, no selling, no trading. It must be outside the city limits. No commercial use.
So it's a labor of love.
It is totally a labor of love.
It is a labor of love to follow all those rules. You have a list of rules.
Yeah. And I have, we formed the Roar Foundation after ROAR Foundation
Right.
in order to be able to accept donations.
I see.
So we're a 501c3, very, very nonprofit.
Do people come out to visit?
Oh yes, and we have a wonderful website.
And that's where your book is. Is the book on the website?
No, the book isn't on the website.
but-
No, in fact, I'm doing a reprint of it.
Oh, tell us about the book,
But anyway, you can look us up at shambhala.org.
which is a nonprofit, right?
Yeah, and that's where you can learn all about the different programs that we have, because it's a huge operation. It isn't just a couple of. We've got 74 big cats.
You do.
And an African elephant.
I'm going to show some pictures in a minute.
Yeah, and
so
they
you can
all
tell
have
us.
they all have stories, Joan, and they're all poignant and sad, but Shambhala is the happy ending.
What does that mean? The word Shambhala.
The word is a Sanskrit word. It means a meeting place of peace and harmony for all beings, animal and human.
Oh, and that's just what
Isn't
you've
that lovely?
done. Yes, that's just
Wouldn't it be
what
great
you've
if the
done.
world could be like that?
I'm going to show a couple of these pictures because these are your
This is
favorite.
a little tiger. Her name is Mendy, and she was born at a terrible place outside of Colton, California. There was something like 90 big cats being starved and with no water, and they found 58 cats, little cubs, in a freezer. I mean, it was horrendous.
And she was very
Absolutely.
sweet when
and
you
she was
got
the
her?
last one born there. But he was breeding these animals, and the mothers were so sick that I don't know how they could even come to full term, but they did. But she didn't have any milk, so most of them were dying.
Oh, that's-
And little Mendy was the last one. But you can see how cute she is. And then now look
And
at this
then-
one.
yeah.
And this is an example of why they're not good pets, because in a split second, they can revert from being a totally passive animal to a being that is very dangerous.
Do you teach that? Is that part of
Yes,
the
we are
feeling
trying.
about-
We are trying very hard to make everybody aware that no wild animal is a pet, whether it's a little squirrel in your backyard or a Siberian tiger.
Here's another one of the
This is Subira.
animals.
Subira. Let me see the second picture there.
Oh, right.
Yes. All right. Now, this little girl is missing a leg. She's missing her right hind leg.
Oh, yeah.
The umbilical cord was wrapped around her right hind leg when she was in the womb, and it didn't receive any circulation. It atrophied and had to be removed at birth. So when she came to us, and the place that she was born, they were considering not knowing what to do with her, whether they should euthanize her or what. And we said, she's fine as far as we're concerned. And we've got a harness for her that went around her chest and her abdomen. And we'd kind of pick her up like you do a suitcase
So you
to
kind
teach
of
her
taught her?
how to stand. And then we taught her how to walk, and she runs like the wind.
Do people come to you, and do you have to approve the animals that are brought to the
No, we don't
Shambhala?
have to approve them at all. Whoever needs a home, we try to make that possible if we have room.
Work it out somehow?
Yeah.
I have another one because you love...
This is Boo, and Boo was purchased in Texas for $6,000, brought to a very beautiful home in Newport Beach, where as he grew, you know, they're so cute when they're little.
I know, they're like your
adorable.
kitty, like your purring little kitties, huh?
But by the time they're 3 or 4 months old, they're ruining your house and taking a good chunk out of you. And that black leopard was so bad that the woman put him in a closet, and he lived there. And the husband would come home, put great big leather gloves on, take him out and wrestle with him, teaching him that's okay to do with people.
Why do they want animals if they're not going to take care of them?
People want that for a number of reasons. One is that they want a different kind of pet. They don't, they're not
something.
happy with a wonderful dog or a delicious, marvelous cat. They want something unique and different or whatever. And it's so sad. I've seen so many tragic situations that it's really awful.
I want to show the elephant before
This is Timbo.
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 Do you know every name of the 75?
You bet I do. Oh yeah, and I know all the different characteristics of each species, the different personalities
Does
of each.
Timbo have his own water? And
Yeah, he does. It's diminished a lot because we're in the fifth year of a drought, and the water is not as plentiful. We have to do some major electrical work to activate a pump that will be able to run.
And I have one more picture of Timbo.
Yeah, there are, they say that there is 1,000 muscles in that trunk.
How old is he?
He's the oldest African elephant. He's 47. Oldest African elephant in the United States and the largest.
And where'd you get him?
He came from a park up in Okanagan, outside of Vancouver.
That's so great.
And here's Leo.
This is my last
Leo
one.
was Leo. Oh, and there's another one I don't want to talk about. Leo was living in a basement outside of Branson, Missouri.
Look how beautiful he is.
And he is absolutely gorgeous.
Does he get his hair combed every day?
He has the most magnificent mane I've ever seen. It is just huge.
No
and
bad
beautiful.
hair days?
But he's a very, very tough guy. He's
Is
very,
he?
yes, with
So you have to be careful with a lot of
sure,
these?
yeah, absolutely. And then there's one, this is little Zoe. Zoe came to us from that awful place outside of Colton, which the man had the
nose.
had the audacity to call it Tiger Rescue, and he was killing those animals. She came in, they were all sick, they all had pneumonia, but she had an additional problem of she was blind.
Oh my God,
And
how
so
did you know?
Well, you can tell.
You knew?
They bump into things. And,
oh, wow.
And so we found an eye doctor through Dr. Bernstein, and we raised the money, and she had an operation.
That's so
And the greatest thing was, after she was operated on, she was back, and we had to put her in a hospital area that has a floor on it, not earth, because she couldn't get any sand in her eyes, and she couldn't be with her buddies.
Right.
So I went up to talk to her, and I was standing right in front of her, and she started going, like this.
Oh, because she heard your voice?
No, she was looking around me, trying to look around me, and I turned around.
Oh, because she'd already had the surgery?
She could see, and yes, it was
really great story.
It was a wonderful story, but we have to raise almost $1 million a year.
So that's
and it's so hard. It's so hard to raise that money.
But people hearing your story, I think, will really be interested.
Oh, I hope so.
in
And
doing something.
if they look at shambhala.org, it would be really wonderful. And that will tell you how to get to the preserve. We're very exclusive. We're only open 1 weekend a month.
Oh, good.
But we have an Adopt a Wild One program. And you become a wild parent when you adopt, and it's fabulous because you can come and visit your wild one the first Saturday.
I love that. That's
and
great.
A membership program that's absolutely fabulous. We're having our big membership party on October 30th.
Oh, that's
So if
super.
you join before October 30th, you can come to that wonderful party.
Thank you.
And we have events. We're having one on November 6th at the Magic Castle.
Oh, so you do fundraising
all
the
the time.
And it's
all the time.
Do you have time to act anymore?
I have to, because I've never been paid as president of the foundation. I've never been paid as director. And about 10 years ago, I donated all of the land to the foundation,
how great.
so that the animals will always be safe. So yes, I have to act.
So congratulations on
thanks.
this big thing you did.
It's huge. People say all the time, "How do you do it? How do you do it?"
Well,
I don't even ask, because it's a gift from.
That's a gift.
It is.
Thank you, Tippi.
is.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Jen.
And thanks for watching this part of the show. We'll be right back with Fidelity Kastrow. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here with Fidelity Kastrow, who was born in Leipzig, formerly East Germany, and now lives and works in Berlin. Did you always want to be a singer, Fidelity?
I always wanted to be on stage and be involved with music. My father's a musician, so I grew up with classical music, and I did the whole ballet thing as a little girl. And I ended up in a children's choir for the radio station, the East German radio station.
Oh, so you were active just because of your family.
Mostly, yeah. My father very much inspired me and pointed me in that direction.
What did he play?
He plays classical organ.
Really? He has to come and play at Disney Hall because
I'm sure he'd love to.
Fabulous organ there.
Yeah.
So did you travel around with him? Well,
no, while I was a child, I couldn't. You see, in former East Germany, you couldn't travel abroad.
Really?
That was one of the restrictions.
But could he go abroad?
That was a very big privilege because he was very good at what he was doing. They allowed him to travel, but we were always debate. The family was always debate. So he'd come back.
Oh, because they kept you behind.
Yeah.
Well,
so.
they probably taught Russian in school there.
Yes, I learned Russian. That was the first foreign language I learned.
So you spoke, and what about English?
English was my second language. You could choose, after 2 years of Russian, you could choose between French and Russian. And I chose English. First you had Russian, then you had French and English. And so I chose English as the second language.
So you almost speak English without an accent.
Thank you.
Which is pretty good. When you were in East Germany, did you feel that you were free, or did you feel that you were oppressed?
You know, even though I was a really little girl, I could still feel it because my parents were not in the Communist Party. There was only one party. There was not a democracy, so you just had one party, and you were either in or out. And actually you had to be in to avoid problems. Well, my parents chose not to be in the Communist Party, which caused a lot of problems for us children. I have a little brother also.
For the children. But what about him? I mean, he was esteemed as a musician, so he probably felt he had the freedom.
Well, that's one of the things I really learned from my father, and that was, you know what, if you're really good at what you do, you can beat the system because they want to show you around and they want to present you. So he was presenting the former the GDR. And so in order to present the country, they kind of had to make that compromise and let him go. But he could never say it publicly. He just had to not talk about that he's not in the
So he knew
Party.
just how far he could go. When the wall came down, were you affected then?
Very much, very much. It was one of the most important days in my life, although I slept it over. I went to bed really early that evening, so I missed the evening news, which announced that now you can travel.
Oh, yes, because you had to go through, it was no man's land, right?
Exactly. We were in Berlin, and West Berlin was surrounded by the wall, and they just announced on the evening news that now you can travel and you can go to West Berlin. So everybody just went to the wall. And the guards were overwhelmed, and at that time Gorbachev was in charge, and he didn't send in the tanks, what normally happened. So
to stop, so you knew you were free.
So that stopped a bloody revolution, and people just were able to travel. But I went to bed that night, and the next morning I woke up, and I was listening to an American GI's radio station all the time. And I'm listening, it was called RS2 at the time. And I'm listening to the radio, and I'm going to the bathroom, and I'm talking to my mother. I'm like, they said on the radio that the wall fell down. And my mom was like, oh, that's rubbish.
Oh, really?
and I'm like, I heard it again. And then I went on the subway to go to school, and there was all these champagne bottles in the subway, and I come to the school and no one's there, not even the teachers. So then I really realized, oh my God. And then we went over Checkpoint Charlie the same day.
That was great. And then, were you ready to perform?
Well, that
I want to
opened
talk
up.
about what you do. Yeah,
that opened up everything. Until then, that was the biggest thing that could never happen. It was the wall will never come down. So when the wall fell, that was anything can happen now. So if this can happen, then anything can happen.
But were you thinking of being a pop singer then?
No, at that time I wanted to be a director, a film director.
So you didn't want to really act?
No, no, I wanted to be a film director in East Germany because I wanted to make political films, and I wanted to be a film director and make really edgy films and kind of get by the censorship, but still have the message.
But now,
so that kind of dropped.
But now you're a big pop star.
So now I decided to sing, and it took me a long way to go all the way back. First, I had a classical education. I went to a special music school from 5th till 10th grade, and there I had voice lessons, and I played piano for 7 years, and then I kind of broke up. I broke up with that, and I tried all other kinds of things. And a couple years ago, I just felt, no, I just have to do that music thing.
And here it is.
And that
music
it is.
thing.
That's Corvin Dalek's album. He's an Hungarian artist I'm working with, and I have 2 tracks on this album. One's called I Like It 69. That's my single that's coming out just before Christmas.